What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going off-roading again today. So we got a bigger group this time though, and hopefully we all don't get stuck because we got some big vehicles for this. So we got Zach's OBS F350. Austin's gonna try and see how far he makes it in this pretty much brand new Tahoe. We got Jack and his Lexus again. So hopefully we don't have to pull that out. And then my wonderful 6-blow. So we're gonna get out on the trails. We are in Edinburg, Virginia at the Peters Mill Run ATV trails, and Tasker's Gap, I think, is the other set of trails here. So we're gonna go get on these and see how this goes. So obviously this was our first trip ever to these trails. The most off-roading we had done prior to this was at the canal trails, where we jumped Jack's GX470 and then got it stuck, which you guys can go watch that video by clicking the icon in the top right corner. But because of that lack of experience, we had absolutely no clue where we were supposed to go. And I'm going to keep flashing the map up to show you what trails we're on, so you guys know if you ever visit the trails here. But this first section that we went down really just was a gravel road, and as soon as we passed this little Mazda hatchback, we realized that this probably wasn't the trail we were looking for. This is the trail called Dynamite, if you happen to have a trail map to reference, and it's actually part of the Tasker's Gap portion of the trails. If this little hatchback was able to make it the whole way up this trail, it probably wasn't going to be too challenging for a few 4x4 vehicles. So we turned around and went back to the parking lot that we started at. And this is where we found some locals that told us that the start of the trail is actually across the road from the parking lot. So once we got pointed in the right direction, we were good, and finally on the actual Peters Mill Run trails. For reference, this is heading north on the trails, and this trail is listed as being 6.5 miles, but we later found out that it's actually over 8 miles. We really had no idea what to expect, as none of us researched this super hard, but what we found out was that the end of the trails that we started on was the most challenging section of these trails. It has a decently steep elevation climb that's mostly dirt, like typical red clay hard pack. And of course, it had been raining for a couple days, so it was very wet and very slick. I didn't think to put the F350 in 4-wheel drive prior to getting on the trails, but after trying to climb a hill and just spinning the rear wheels, I learned quickly that I needed to get it into 4-wheel drive. Once you get through the mostly dirt section of this trail, which is about the first 1.5 miles of it, you get to this rock formation, which I referred to as a rock staircase because that's what it resembled to me. But we had never climbed something like this, so it was just gas it and hold on for dear life for us. We're drivers that are used to pavement and low cars, not big off-road guys that know how to get up every obstacle, but we made it up fine. And later in this video, there's a shot of us going back down this from the outside of the car, just so you can see how sketchy this is. After this though, the trail just turns into a whole lot of rocks, just enough to beat the snot out of you when you're in a 7,000-pound pickup truck. But we kept on trucking until we got to about 3.5 or 4 miles into the trail. At this point, Austin needed to go back to his vehicle because he had an event he had to leave for. So we just turned around and headed back to the parking lot to drop him off. And you've probably realized that this means he did not try to take the Tahoe on the trails like I said in the opening, which was probably a good decision considering how rough these trails were. Also, when we got back to the parking lot and dropped Austin off, we decided to go to the Tasker's Gap portion of the trails, which had a separate parking lot down the road. Once we got to that parking lot, I decided that I had had enough of sitting in my truck by myself and getting beat up on the trails, so I actually hopped in Jack's GX470 and we kept it moving. The Tasker's Gap portion of this trail system is really just an out and back trail for off-highway vehicles that is just over 4.5 miles long. There's a lot of ATV specific trails in this area, and we tried to get down some of them, even though we weren't necessarily sure if we were supposed to do that. But we kept finding that all the trails got way too narrow to even fit the Lexus down. So we all agreed that we need to go buy dirt bikes and four-wheelers and come back here in the future to try these trails out. But we went all the way down to the end of the trail as far as we could, and then just came right back out. This is also where we found that we are terrible at trying to understand the trail maps and color codes for the trails. Or the trails aren't marked anymore like the way the map says that they are, and the colors have changed over the years. Who knows, but at least we didn't get lost in the woods too badly. What you see in the smaller display is the entire main off-highway vehicle trail, and the large video is all of the smaller trails that we tried to squeeze into, so you can all see just how tight of an area we wedged ourselves into way too much and way too often. We all agreed after doing this area that it wasn't super exciting to drive, and the Peters Mill Run area is better. So once we were out of these trails, we just went back to town to get lunch at Sheetz. After lunch, we decided that we were going to find the top of the Peters Mill Run trail and go down the trail heading south. Zach had thought that there was a river crossing as part of this trail system, so that's really what we were looking for. But what we think used to be the river crossing has been backfilled in with dirt and large boulders to keep people out of that area. After this trip, I found some forum posts that suggested that there was issues with people driving off-road vehicles up and down the river where they weren't actually supposed to be driving. So it's kind of understandable that if there was a river crossing that it got shut down. But, you know, as always, it takes a few people to ruin a good thing. But The top of the trail is a whole lot more of just rocks, just like the middle section of the trail is, just with less elevation change. It's predominantly pretty flat. But we kept getting stuck behind people that were absolutely crawling through this area, which led to a lot of us stopping in a section, waiting for Zach to catch up, and then we take off again until we caught up to the slow folks in front of us, and we would just rinse and repeat that process. By the time that we realized that there wasn't actually a river crossing, we were already about 3 miles into this trail, so we just kept on moving. Remember how I said that this trail is listed at 6.5 miles? So really, we thought we were about halfway through and weren't far from where we had turned around earlier. Obviously, that wasn't true because the trail is actually longer than what the map lists it. So we would have been better off turning around, but we didn't know at the time to make that decision. After about another mile down the trail, we came across this random clearing that would have been fun to rip donuts in or just, hoon around or something, but it was just way too rutted and washed out that if you caught a tire, you were probably going to roll your car over. And we didn't want that to happen, so we thought better of doing any of that.
That is a mud hole.
Is it?
It's not that bad. It's really narrow up there. This right here probably floods when there's heavy rain.
Oh my God, I'm sure.
Spin. Yeah, I don't know what this is. And there's no markers.
I mean, there's a yellow marker over there.
Yeah. It's hot out there. We're at 2,100 feet. We started at 650 this morning. Yeah, I kind of looked through there. That's like a narrow trail. Keep going? All right.
We're closer to that exit than we are on that one.
We are.
Are we?
If we started at 16 and we're already at 7. Watch, motorcycle. Another one. Ripper.
Yeah, we're closer to that exit.
Yeah,
We stopped probably around like that bend there.
probably.
Okay. Keep her going.
Around the corner from that area, we found probably the most fun obstacle that's on this trail system at all. There's this awesome hill to climb that's super rutted out, and it really walks the truck left to right and, you know, cycles the suspension basically the full way from full droop right back up to the bump stops, and you just power through it, and if you have enough balls, you make it up to the top. What we didn't realize is that at the top of this hill was a group of about 10 to 12 younger guys. And I say young guys, but they were probably really only a couple years younger than us. But they were out there camping and hanging out for the weekend. So when we came blasting up the hill, they absolutely lost their minds, which was really comical for us because we didn't expect it. We stopped and chit-chatted with them for a while and found out just how much beer they were drinking, because boy, those guys were having a great time. And also, this interaction contributed to a joke that will probably live on for forever between the four of us. These guys absolutely lost their minds when we told them that we made it all the way out here without airing down our tires at all to be able to drive these trails. So now, at the sight of any off-road vehicle, the first question we jokingly ask each other is, I wonder if they air down their tires. And you're probably going to hear me and Jack jokingly say this for the rest of the video in the background. After we moved on from those guys, we came across the area that we turned around at, and I stopped recording until we got to that rock staircase. This was fun to be able to get out and watch Jack and Zach both slide down these rocks, even though they were really trying to take it slow and maintain traction. But, you know, when you're out there, it's wet, the rocks don't care. So they slid down it pretty well. But at that point, that really ended Saturday's trip, and we just headed back to the Airbnb for the night. Sunday rolled around, and we ended up deciding to go back to the trails so that Austin could experience the entire thing, because he had to leave on Saturday. But before we left the Airbnb, we couldn't help but notice this interesting message that the neighbors across the street had left for us. I guess they really didn't appreciate that we accidentally left the front porch light on overnight and decided to spray paint this broken down Honda Civic in their front yard, which we thought was absolutely comical. But after laughing at that, we drove back down to Edinburg and got on the trails. I didn't do any recording from the inside of the car on Sunday, but Ryan did, so you can go watch his video of Sunday's trail run and just click the icon in the top right corner.
Good bit.
But here's all the clips of any fun spots that we found, and just absolutely ripping through puddles just to splash water all over the place, because like every day prior, it rained again overnight, so the trails were still wet. thankfully, we made it through this entire trip without having any mishaps with vehicles, and we will definitely make the trip back down here one day to run these trails again. Hopefully at that time we have smaller vehicles like four-wheelers or dirt bikes, but even in the big stuff, these are still fun to go drive. So that's the Peters Mill Run trails. We're gonna get out. We've adjusted Jack's alignment enough a little bit on the Lexus. So we're gonna go back, get my truck, and then head home. So that's gonna wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Hope to see you next time. Goodbye.